Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness.
This is episode 92.
It's a new week on our Let's Be Well Together podcast. It's Elise Seifert here, joined by John Webster.
Hello, Elise. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So what's on your mind today, John?
I thought we could talk about artistic wellness. We got a great opportunity because a few months back, you decided to get into pottery, and it's really gotten something pretty cool. What is your Instagram? What do you call it? Label?
My handle.
Your handle.
Yes, it's potteryby.elise.
So there's the @ symbol and then
potteryby.elise. Yes.
Okay, so everybody follow Elise's handle if you want to see some fun reels and see Elise making pottery. And I like talking about artistic wellness, and it's really cool to have an example where you're experiencing it. So how did you even decide to do pottery in the first place?
It started as a child. I went to pottery camp. I don't know if you remember this. Yeah. I think I was about 10, 11, and I don't know why I chose to go to a pottery camp. Maybe I found out about it through a friend, but I went to a pottery camp, and at that time we were only allowed to hand build. We weren't allowed to use the wheel yet. And I really enjoyed doing it, but I was really interested in trying the wheel.
You got to teach people the lingo. So what does
right.
What does hand build mean? What does wheel mean?
So hand building is when you just take a chunk of clay and you shape it into whatever you want it to be using just your hands. Whereas using the wheel, it's a pottery wheel that spins that you can control with different speeds. And then you manipulate the clay as it's spinning. And so I had hand built a few items as a child, and I could see the wheels there spinning and the people creating these beautiful pieces. And I thought, that's something I want to do. So fast forward to my 30s now, and it's funny, I saw an Instagram post where someone said, being in your 30s is just like being a 13-year-old kid and doing everything you loved as a 13-year-old kid, but doing it proudly instead of being embarrassed by it, the things that you interest you. And I thought, this is something.
So you're like, I want to do pottery.
Yeah, this is exactly it.
Okay, so you join it, and what did you sign up for?
I had actually seen on social media, I saw that there were wheel classes, pottery wheel classes coming up at a studio close to where I lived. And I remembered being a child, seeing the wheel, thinking that looked really cool. And I decided I'm going to try it. So I go in, and it was a 6-class course. So it was 6 3-hour classes.
Wow, that's a long time.
And it was weekly. So we met every Saturday from 9 to noon. And the teacher was amazing. She was a trained potter at Sheridan College. And she worked in a factory setting, creating pottery. And then she had her own studio and has since then moved into a different business. But she carried a lot of experience, and I really connected with her. And I thought she was an excellent teacher. So we started doing the wheel, and I think it was really challenging. And I just loved the challenge of trying to control that clay with the wheel.
Yeah, there must have been some pretty funny errors on the way.
Oh, so many. And there's so many steps where your piece can just flop and die. And there's like 14 different steps where you're like, okay, I passed this one. Let's see if I can get to the next one. And there's so many different ways to learn. But the thing I love about clay is that you could just reuse it and reuse it and reuse it. You have to, of course, go through some steps and processes to make sure it's at the right level of moisture. But it's really amazing, and I feel really connected to the pieces that I make, and I think that really draws me in. I think it's really the challenge, though, that keeps me coming back for more and understanding how can I make this better, or what can I do next to challenge myself. I think that's what makes me want to continue to do it.
Does that mean if you're making, say, a vase or something and it flops in, you can then take that hunk of clay and, maybe manipulate it a bit to get the right moisture level and plop it back on and try again?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. That's
it might take a day or so. Like you might not be able to use it that same session, but yeah, clay is such an interesting medium in that regard. So that's really cool. And then being able to understand how much you need to use, how much moisture you need to use. There's so many lessons along the way. And I know my pottery teacher said that she would do things the exact same way. And for whatever reason, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Oh. And that's what draws her into the clay. It's very scientific, and there's a lot to explain with science, but at the same time, there's just some times where it just doesn't work, and she loved that, and I think that was a great way to articulate what I love about it as well.
How many classes did you take before you're like, I'm kind of hooked, I'm going to keep doing this for a while?
I think it took probably 2 classes for me to work out this is really hard. How do I even get one piece to stand up? And then I started realizing, the different steps, and there's so much information to take in at first. She would demonstrate, and there's just so many steps. And so then you'd watch her demonstrate again, and then you're like, oh, I missed that step, and that's why this isn't working. Or, oh, now I understand why you have to do this. And then even going through those 6 sessions, we get to the end, and you're painting and glazing the pieces then, and you realize this is why she told us to do this like 5 steps ago, but it's too late now.
Right.
So then I'm like, I got to take another course.
Yeah.
So the studio that I worked at, or that I took the classes through, they had a program where there are 3 different courses. There's essentially level 1, level 2, level 3. So that 6-week course was the level 1 course. And they have a policy where you can come in for open studio time. And in order to qualify for open studio time, they want you to complete the 3 level courses. So I started with that level 1 course and decided I had fallen in love with it and I wanted to work towards that open studio time. So I quickly took that level 2 course because it had the same instructor. And I thought it would be good to take it immediately after so I wouldn't lose some of those skills. And then there was a level 3 course that came up right after that. So I took the level 3 course.
Oh, so you've done them all now.
I've done them all.
Wow.
So now I qualify for open studio time, which means I can just come in at the available hours and I could work at my own pace. I just purchase clay with them. I keep that clay myself and then they fire it for me in the kiln, which is great. And I also can use the glaze and the paints that they have available there.
Pretty cool. I love your reels too. They're really funny. The one I really liked a lot was you were measuring and you had all these scientific symbols. You're trying to make 2 things the exact same time and showing how you could apply rigorous scientific method and you came up with 2 completely different things.
I thought they were exactly the same.
Did you though?
I don't know. I thought, okay, this is 2.5 by 3. Like this is exactly the same. Didn't you
have them sitting beside each other?
They do. I have them sitting there. I'm looking at them as I'm creating them. It's so interesting.
But they're not the same.
They're not the same. They're not the same. And I think when I was first even going through my classes, I want to make things that look perfect.
Right.
Like they're machine made. And I think I'm now able to let go of the fact that I'm not supposed to make something that looks machine made.
Right.
Like I'm supposed to make something that looks handmade because I'm hand making it. And maybe it can look professionally done. It looks like I have experience, but it's okay for it not to be perfect like a robot would create it or like it would come out of a mold.
I remember seeing some of the coffee cups you made and they're all really cute and they look the same because of the way you stain them, but they're just slightly glazed them. But they're just slightly different sizes. It's really cool. And someday I'm going to twist your arm and see if you can make some Let's Be Well Together mugs and we'll maybe do a contest or something like that. But anyway, then, so more recently you did a build class or something? What's going on with that?
Yeah. So then the teacher I had, she really enjoys hand building. She had spent some time in Central America working with some artists there. And she had learned a lot of cool skills in hand building techniques. Yeah. And she was amazed to see what some of these artists could do with their hands that maybe our Western pottery builders would use multiple tools to do. And they would just boop, 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 done. So she wanted to share her love of hand building. So I decided to take that class. And it was a really great way to learn what I could do with the clay, how far I could push it or what I could add on. Because I know when I'm on the wheel, I feel like if I sneeze, I might ruin this piece, So just being able to learn more about how I can push the clay was really helpful. And I really enjoyed that. And I made a butter dish, which was really cute. And
I'm assuming that it's even more kind of unique when you hand build as compared to using the wheel.
It definitely is. And I think that's one of the reasons I kind of realized that it's nice to have something that looks handmade because you're actually like indenting it with your fingers or pinching or coiling it. So just making coils and putting those together and then pinching them together. And I kind of do really like that rustic look. So
yeah, the other quick point I want to make too, because it surprised me, I'll often go to shows and there's artisans and they have clay work. And Sheila and I like to support art, so we don't kind of haggle over prices or anything like that. That's just something we don't tend to do with artists. But I would often think, oh, that's kind of expensive for this pottery. But it turns out that it actually is relatively expensive just for the clay and the glaze, not even taking into account the time and the talent.
Exactly. Yeah, I was surprised. I thought, okay, if I can make a bunch of pieces, I bet I could make them and they'd be a couple bucks a piece for me and I could sell them for $10 or something. But that's really not the case I'm finding if I work really quickly, it might be about $10 a piece. And that's just the the materials.
Yeah, so
not accounting for my time.
So are you talking about a bowl?
As I would say a bowl,
Okay.
a bowl or a mug. That would be about
clay.
$10 of materials alone.
Wow.
For me.
That's expensive.
So it was interesting to learn that.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun. We are going to keep singing the song that artistic wellness is important for everyone. The more we enhance our own artistic wellness, it helps us in other areas. And so it's great that you're getting a lot out of pottery. Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Hey, it's John Webster. Earlier this year, the Waterloo Region Law Association asked me to host a Q&A with former NHL player Shayne Corson about his experiences with anxiety, depression, and more, and finding a way forward. I'm grateful to Shayne and the association for allowing our listeners to listen in on the interview. We're presenting it in 2 parts. Here comes part 1, and join us next week for part 2. We have a wonderful opportunity today because Shayne is willing to share his experiences with us. Over the course of his life, Shayne suffered from anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. He kept his anxiety problems to himself. His coaches didn't know. His general managers didn't know. Not even really his agent. But one of the best ways to break down stigma and make it easier for people to seek help is by hearing from people like Shayne who share their struggles in recovery. So a brief intro about Shayne. I think we all know who he is, and it's amazing. I'm trying to keep my fanboy down because I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan and grew up watching him. He played for the Montreal Canadiens, Edmonton Oilers, St. Louis Blues, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Dallas Stars. He captained 2 NHL clubs during his 19-season professional career. He also played for Canada at the Canada Cup, World Junior Ice Hockey Championships, World Cup of Hockey, and 1998 Winter Olympics. During the 2003 Stanley Cup playoffs, Shayne stopped playing for the Maple Leafs in the midst of a series in which he was not dressing for games. It was quite a story, and it turns out that he had been experiencing physical symptoms of anxiety. Some of them felt like he was having heart attacks, and he didn't know what was happening to him. At times, he thought he was dying. Shayne started to get help from doctors. He started to feel better after he reached out for help, and today we hear a bit about Shayne's journey in a question and answer session. I've had the good fortune of interviewing many people on wellness topics, including courageous people like Shayne who share stories with us about their challenges. So I was honored to be asked to do the Q&A today with Shayne. Okay, so Shayne, I've talked a lot. I'd like to bring you into the conversation.
Yeah, but thanks very much, John. I mean, did my mom write those nice words out and send them to you so you could say those nice things about me? My mom's my biggest fan. But anyways, first of all, I just want to say thanks very much to the Waterloo Regional Law Association for having me here today and for giving me the opportunity to tell my story, actually, because it's therapy for me. And that's what it means so much to me to be able to tell my story, because it helps me as much as it helps other people, hopefully. It certainly helps me a lot to be able to talk about my story and tell my story. So thank you to all of you. And I look forward to this time with everybody, and I look forward to the questions. And like I said, I'm an open book about my mental health and my depression, anxiety. You mentioned something in there that only a few people knew in my family and in my teammates and my mom, but actually I suffered with it on my own for years. I didn't actually mention anything to anybody until I actually left the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2003. So I had suffered with it from early on, just after my dad's death in 1993. So I actually hid it for almost 10 years before I even told one person.
Okay, well, it would be easy kind of to start in the 2003 playoffs, but I imagine things started a bit earlier. If you go back even to before your dad passed away, when you look back, when do you feel that your challenges with anxiety began? Was it as a child, or was it after that passing of your dad?
I think I was always an anxious kid, but I had 2 loving parents, 2 great sisters, a lot of great friends, and things, were really good as a child. I think it took a next step when my dad passed away. I was playing in Edmonton at the time. He had gone into the hospital to have a minor surgery, we thought. Unfortunately, he never came out of the hospital. They actually called me. I was in warm-up with the Edmonton Oilers. Thought they had traded me, actually. And at this time, I wish it was just a trade, but it was a phone call that I had to come and take, and actually got the opportunity to talk to my dad. Was able to tell him I loved him. He didn't really know who he was talking to, I don't think. He was on tons of drugs and stuff, and 15 minutes after I got off the phone with him, he passed away. So that's something that bothered me a lot too. I mean, I got the opportunity to talk to him. They didn't really know who I was, and I didn't get that opportunity to fly back and be with him when he was passing away. So it's something that I dealt with for a long time and struggle with still at this moment. And then I went home for a quick 3-4 days, and then I was right back to Edmonton to play hockey again, and never really dealt with my father's death properly.
How close were you with your father?
My dad and I were best buddies. My dad was 17 years old when I was born, so we had a very close-knit family, and we still do. My mom's still alive. Thank God she was the rock of our family after my dad passed away. I mean, I had my mom and 2 sisters that I felt that I needed to take care of, and so I just moved on from my dad's death and just went on with life as normal and tried to do the best I could and take care of them and make sure they were okay. But my dad and my mom are my best friends. They're the reason why I made it to the NHL. They sacrificed so much for me to play hockey, the game that I love to play, and they worked at the same time. They worked 7 days a week. So they were a big part of my life. And like I said, my dad was my best buddy. We did everything together, and we had a lot of great memories, and luckily we do.
You said that things went to a next level. So I assume that you were having some anxiety type issues, but you said it went to the next level after your dad passed away. What did that feel like? Well, how was that manifesting itself?
Oh man, it was like, it started with anxiety, and then I started getting depressed and having depression and, crying on my own a lot and going through different things, and just snowballed over the years to the point that I got to the point when I was in Montreal. I actually signed as a restricted free agent from Edmonton, went to St. Louis, played there for a year and a bit, then got traded back to Montreal, played there for 3 years. And at that point, I was an unrestricted free agent and had to make a decision whether I was going to come to Toronto and be close to my family and my mom and, leave family that I had in Montreal and the team that I played for 10 years and come to here to Toronto and play. And I think it started, like I said, a snowball effect. And I remember sitting on the couch and I felt fine and was watching TV and started having now what I know was a panic attack. I thought it was a heart attack at the time and thought I was dying and thought, I wasn't going to be here for much longer. So I started telling everybody that I loved them, and saying sorry to people that maybe had done some things too that I felt bad about, and thought I was dying right there on the spot, was sweating all kinds and shaking. And I don't know how, somehow I made my way up to my bedroom, crawled my way up to the bedroom on my hands and knees, and told my wife that I thought I was dying and to call the doc. And fortunately for me, the doctors with the Montreal Canadiens are amazing people, and he rushed over to the house right away and checked all my vitals and everything. And actually, at that moment, was actually able to explain to me that I was having a panic attack. And then the panic attacks just continued to get more frequent, more often, and got to the point where it was happening daily. I felt like I was in a panic attack constantly. And then at one point, I started feeling like I was in a dark hole, was never going to come out of that dark hole, and started having thoughts of killing myself and jumping off my friend's balcony and so on, or finding different ways to kill myself. So that's how it kind of went throughout the years.
The thoughts of self-harm, was that a progression, or how did that transpire?
Well, I mean, I kind of tried to explain it there. I was having panic attacks, and my panic attacks went from having one every couple of days, every 3-4 days, to every couple of days to having a panic attack every day, and then feeling like I was in a panic attack daily. And I started feeling like I was in a dark hole, was never going to be able to get out of that dark hole. And I thought the only way out was to kill myself. And I was having thoughts of killing myself on a daily basis. And I'd be standing on a friend's balcony at his condo and thinking, what, it would be much easier just to jump off this balcony and get rid of all the pain and things like that and the suffering. But just something inside me would snap, and I would just say, no, I can't do that. I have kids, I have a family, I have, things I have to take care of before I do something like that. But the thoughts of killing myself or hurting myself started happening more often.
It's hard to go back in time and revisit things, but do you have any sense as to why at that point you weren't reaching out for help, or did you reach out for help?
I still hadn't reached out for help at that point. I was a bit embarrassed. I thought I was a big, strong hockey player, and I would be able to get out of it. And people didn't know I was suffering with mental health. People close to me knew I was suffering with something, but they thought it was just something that, that I could snap out of, because I was a big, strong guy and fairly healthy. And they always see me pull through lots of different things. So they just expect me to pull through this. They just tell me to snap out of it. But so I think I was a little bit of that, but I think I was just being embarrassed and scared and and shy to tell somebody that I was suffering with mental health, because it was quite a stigma back in the day, and still is to this day. And I was also afraid of losing my job. I mean, that's how I made my livelihood, is playing hockey, and that's the way I paid my bills and paid for my home and for my food and for my family's clothes and for everything else. And also had a mom that I had to take care of too. So I was afraid to lose my job at that time and didn't want to tell anybody, and thought that if I did that, they might let me go or release me from playing the game I love to play.
You've started talking publicly about your journey and the struggles and whatnot. Have other people said something similar, that they were afraid to reach out for help because either they'd get fired or they'd be embarrassed or it was stigma, that type of stuff?
Oh man, since I came out and talked about it, I've talked about it in many, different papers and on TV and stuff like that. And I've got thousands and thousands of people that reached out to me, either at my parents' restaurant or at my buddy's restaurant or on social media or through the Elise or through the Habs or through the Oilers, or just through friends that reached out to me and told me that, thank you very much for talking about it. And, I suffer from it. And there was complete strangers that reached out to me. There was people that were friends of mine that I never would have guessed that were suffering from it from the outside. And that's normally what people are really good at, hiding things like this and not telling people because they are afraid or scared to talk about, or embarrassed or shy. And it's something that you shouldn't be, but you are. And I know I was, and I know lots of people have been, and they've told me so, is that they're scared of losing their jobs or losing friends or losing whatever, family members, or losing your life. So there's a lot of things that come into it, but it's a very scary thing. Your mind's a very powerful and strong thing. And that's something that I realized. I've been through a lot of injuries, a lot of sicknesses. I've had colitis, ulcerative colitis I've dealt with since I was 15, broken many bones and suffered a lot of different injuries, but there's nothing like dealing with mental health and mental health illnesses, because it's the most powerful thing I've ever been through in my entire life.
So during the 2003 playoffs, you realized that you had to stop playing hockey. And my question is, what made you realize that? And at that time, was it still before you had reached out for help?
Well, I hadn't reached out for help until I left the game. That's why I left the game. I had no choice at that point. I was either going to walk away and go get the help I needed to get and admit that I needed help, or I was going to die. I knew that. I had lost 15 to 20 pounds. Couldn't eat. Every time I tried to eat something, it would just come straight back up. And I was having, the darker thoughts about killing myself or hurting myself pretty much every day. There was a stretch where I didn't leave my house for 12 days and just laid over an ottoman and, cuddle with my German Shepherd dog, and just thought that it was going to be the end at some point here. So I knew at that point that it was either time to leave the game that I love to play and love being a part of, especially at the funnest time, that's playoff time, or and get the help I needed, or I wasn't going to be around to be able to do things like I'm doing right now, speaking to you and the people that I'm speaking to right now.
For you, what did reaching out for help look like? How did it start?
Well, leaving the Leafs and just saying that I needed to get the help. I wasn't even doing that. I wasn't even admitting to the fact that I needed help. I thought I could do it on my own and find a way to get through it on my own. But I knew at that point that there was no chance of that, because like I mentioned, I was thinking of killing myself daily. Started with 1 Ativan a day, and I was taking between 8 and 10 Ativan a day. 1 Ativan, the size that I was taking would put most people to sleep for the whole night, where I was taking 8 to 10 of them, and every day, 8 to 10. So I knew that I needed to get the help. And when I first left the dressing room, and my mom was at the game actually, and she always met me outside the Wise room. And I just said to my mom, I need help. I've been going through a lot of different things mentally and health wise, and having some very bad thoughts about killing myself. And I can't do it anymore. And she said, oh, that's great. Let's find the help you need. So that look for me was to, admit that I needed the help, and then go find the help and find a doctor that was good for me. And, that help for everybody is a little bit different. And the help for me was I went to a psychologist and had turned to the NHLPA, Dr. Shaw, who was a big part of my life and still is to this day, because I still communicate with him and talk to him, because I still deal with this daily. But in saying that, he had said to me, I have a great doctor here in Toronto that you can go see. I went and seen him. I was in the office for about half an hour, sitting in a chair about 20 feet from him. And I felt like I was in a spotlight and was trying to tell my story. And I just started having an anxiety attack. And I just had to, get up and say, this is over. And I took off and ran to my truck, and remember crying in my truck and saying that I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to get through it. And had a major anxiety attack, and finally took an Ativan and calmed down. And about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I finally was able to drive my truck back home and thought, you know what, I'm not going to go back and do that again. It just made me feel worse and create another panic attack and other thoughts of doing crazy things and killing myself. And I called Dr. Shaw a couple of days later and I told him that the experience was terrible and completely set me off. And he said, look at Shayne, I want you to come down to the office today, right now, and I'll treat you myself. And I actually had a really good relationship with Dr. Shaw already and went down there and felt comfortable with him and felt like he wasn't judging me and was just listening to me. And, we had similar, backgrounds where we had a father that passed away at a young age and different things that we were very similar. And I just felt comfortable and really good around him and felt like I was safe with him to be able to tell my story and talk about the things that were bothering me. And that's when I made a real big turn in my getting back to being able to live somewhat of a normal life. I mean, you're going to deal with this for the rest of your life and it's a battle every day. But at that point, I knew that there was hope for me and that, I needed to, stick with Dr. Shaw. And I had Dr. Abels at the time and Dr. Foreman, who's with the Toronto Maple Leafs at this time. He's still a doctor with them. And Dr. Abels was my family doctor. So I worked with all three of them. And they were a big help to me. I mean, I was on the Ativan hooked on that too. So Dr. Abels actually was the one that figured that out and said, you know what, your brain's telling you need the Ativan and you're going to continue to need more and more of it to the point where you're going to probably overdose and be on Ativan and having drinks and stuff and end up dying that way. So that's how I started getting off the Ativan and went down to 1 and then down to half and then down to none. So it was just a team effort for me. I mean, I needed people that I felt comfortable and confident around and felt safe with, and they were all there. And then I obviously had a great support system. Once my family knew that what I was going through, I had a great support system. I was lucky there. Like I had all the doctors that I needed because of the NHLPA, but I had my family, my wife, my kids. I had my sisters and my mom, and I had Darcy and other close friends that, I could open up to after I had come out with it. And obviously I came out with the papers, but I had so much support. And then after talking about it out in the open, I've had so many people reach out to me and just say, hey, if you need to talk or just be strong or do this, or it's okay not to be okay. Or that's how I got through it. And then realizing what it was, realizing that it was anxiety and panic and depression, and that there was hope at the end of the tunnel and you could get through these types of things and with the proper help. But the help for everyone's different. I mean, you have to find what you feel comfortable with and what makes you feel better. And it might not happen right away like it did with me. It didn't happen with me right away. It was actually made my anxiety and panic and depression worse when I seen the first guy. So I think it's different for everyone, and you just got to find what makes you feel safe, confident, and happy, and makes you feel like you're going in the right direction and gives you the feeling that you have hope, because hope is a big thing. And putting out your hand and ask for that help and hope is the first step.
I've actually heard from quite a few people who reached out for professional help and then eventually got it, that it's not always a one-shot route, that they often have to get the right doctors, find the right fit, and that it's important to make sure you feel like it's the right fit. And it sounds like that was your story too. So if I could just ask, I'm going to cover a couple of kind of the common ways of getting through things. So for example, with the doctor's care, did you eventually get on medication that was helpful to you? And do you take medication that's helpful?
My problem was I was really hooked on Ativan. I was taking like 8 to 10 Ativan a day. So I had to get off the Ativan before that killed me, as I mentioned just before.
Yep.
So yeah, I was on medication, but in a proper way. You have to take medication properly. And I think medication is the right thing for some people and not the right thing for other people. And that's, again, you have to figure out with your doctors and the professionals what works for you, which is important. So yeah, I was on Ativan, but I wasn't doing it properly. I was taking like candy, whereas I had to take it before my brain was telling me that I actually needed it. Because once you're in the panic attack and you take the medication, it's not going to help you at all. You're just going to have to take more and more and more to try to null it a bit, and then hopefully feel better. So yeah, I got it properly. I was on it in the morning, at night, but I slowly got off it because I wanted to be off it, because it does still make you feel a little bit numb and tired and stuff like that. And it affects everybody differently. Obviously, drugs affect everybody differently, but for me, it made me feel tired and nausea and a little bit like that. But it still helped me with my anxiety, my panic attacks and depression. So, but I eventually got off everything. I tried another drug and it just made me feel very sick. So I couldn't stay on that. I mean, I have other family members that are on it that helps them immensely. With me, I couldn't take that stuff, but I definitely have some medication that if I really need it in a bad situation where I know I can feel myself getting anxious, that I can take that. but I know how to take it properly now, and know that I can't take it like you're eating gummy bears, right? So that's something that I do have, that I have. But I mean, at one point when I was taking the Ativan, I wouldn't leave the house without my Ativan. I'd take my pill bottle with me in my pocket. And if I had forgotten it, even if I was 50 minutes away from where my home and where my pill box was, I was going back to get it. I mean, I would turn around and go back, because I just couldn't go anywhere without my pills in my pocket at that point. But now I feel great. I can go and do whatever I need to do. But like I said, I do have stuff that if I need to take it, and I think, some people say that it's not good to take pills and blah, 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 and you shouldn't take them. It's bad for you. But I disagree totally. That's something for each person to decide, and to work out with the professionals and the proper doctors that know the medication's right and what the side effects are. And you can take everything into account and decide on your own what's best for you. So that's what I mean. It's not a one shoe fits all for everybody. You have to figure out what works for you. Medication works for some people it doesn't. Different types of medications work for some people, some they don't. I mean, that's something that why you need a good team around you and a good support system around you to figure that out, because you're not going to be able to do that on your own. I certainly wasn't able to do that on my own. If I wouldn't have got the proper help and the right people around me, like I said, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
That's the end of part 1. Join us next week for the completion of Shayne's interview.
I'm a retired artist, dancing through life. Hi everyone, it's Sheila here. I'm hijacking Cameron's starving artist one more time. Whenever he is busy doing his music thing, which he's always busy doing his music thing, I'm going to fill in for him. So today I'm literally going to talk about being a retired artist, dancing through life. As some of you know, I've danced my whole life. I've taught here in Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, Palmerston, Harrison, Mount Forest, all that area for over 30 years. And with that brings a lot of experience. So today I am going to talk about my top 5 things that I've learned from dance and how I bring that into my everyday life. Maybe next time I'll do the other 5, because I have a top 10, but I don't have time for all 10. So today I'm going to do my top 5. My number 1 is stretching. The one thing I've learned from dance is that you have to continually stretch. I cannot express it enough how much you need to stretch. When I wake up in the morning, I stretch. I kind of feel my body, feel my motions, feel what's going on, and make sure I stretch. And while I'm working away at whatever I'm working, I will stretch. Stretch my legs, my feet, my calves. Just keep stretching, because it gets so tight, your body, and it just releases all the anxiety, releases all the tension. It's so great to stretch. So that's my number 1 thing that I've learned from dance. Number 2 is performing. I've learned that you have to be on. When you get on stage, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. You just all of a sudden, poof, you have to be on. And I find that really helps in my everyday life. No matter what's going on in other things, when I'm dealing with a customer, poof, I have to be on. Just turn it on, perform, do your thing, and then go on doing whatever else you have to do. But when you have to perform, and you can. That is a second thing that I've learned from dancing. Number 3 is pushing through. As a dancer, we've had to push through. You have to finish the dance. However long it is, you have to finish the performance. So you have to push through, make it through, and then afterwards deal with whatever has to be dealt with. If it's an injury or an emotion or a problem, a costume problem, anything that is happening else in your life, you just have to push through. And so that's really helped me with my life, especially when I find I've got too much going on. Oh my gosh, I can't do it all. My mind's going crazy. And I'm like, just push through. Push through. You will make it. And I've always made it through. So that's number 3. Number 4 is love of all music. I love all music. Classical's the most, probably. I just feel so much from it. And it's just so inspiring. And I love the fact that there's no lyrics often in classical music. So I can write my own lyrics, tell my own story. But all music, jazz, hip hop, contemporary, I just love music. And that's great. It's so much fun to listen to music and choreograph to music and hear the music. And it just brings so much joy into my life. And my last one is listening to my body. Because through dance, you have to be aware of your body. You're constantly feeling what you're doing, your turnout, your muscles, this muscle, that muscle, your posture, your core. I'm very aware of what's going on with my body. And when I feel pain, I can figure out why I'm in pain, what's going on, what haven't I been doing, what have I been doing. So a very good awareness of my body and listening to my body, making sure that I'm not pushing when I shouldn't be pushing, or I am when I should be. So those are the top 5 things that I have learned from dance and have been bringing to the rest of my life. Thank you so much for listening. I'm sure Cameron will be back, and I will hit you up next time.
We don't have any ads yet, and that's on purpose. We're sharing stories and experiences to give back, to inspire, and get people talking about wellness. 2 quick points. My personality is to present things in a progression. Once I cover a point, I often don't go back to it. If you want to see the whole picture about wellness I'm trying to paint, listen to all our episodes from the start. Second, it's costly to put out a podcast. You can help me defray that cost by buying my book, Accidentally Well by John Webster. It's available on Amazon, Indigo, or anywhere you buy books online. Please consider buying a copy.
Move that body like we're meant to do. Hey, Elise, we are going to talk about today the 6 components of physical exercise. So it's a little different than 6 types of exercise that you should be working out with. This is just the components of that fitness. So 1 is balance, 2, coordination, 3, agility, 4, speed, 5, power, and 6 is reaction time.
Interesting.
Very interesting, because I definitely feel like I get some of them, and then other ones I'm like, oh, interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that. What do you think?
I think some of them, so for example, coordination, I would never think of that as an exercise component or a physical component. I would just think of that as maybe an interest someone would have, because I think about it as like dance. I think about that a lot. Maybe, I guess, coordination in terms of sports, but I wouldn't think that it's super important for everyone to have. I think it would just be a skill that you could choose to build.
Interesting, because I think because we are dancers, for us, it's second nature, coordination.
Yeah.
Because we have to be incredibly coordinated as a dancer. But when I talk to other people, they find things quite difficult and they wish that it was easier and that they were more coordinated. And I also think that it's something that you get from working out, which helps you from getting injured, being more coordinated.
Definitely.
So, yeah. So I agree with you and disagree with you.
I think another one that was a surprise there was the reaction time. And I wonder if, like you just said, it might be good for injury prevention.
Yeah.
So when I think of reaction time, I'm thinking, oh, maybe it will help if, let's say, you have a fall and you're able to help save yourself instead of, breaking something. So that could be quite important.
I agree. Or also just how to stop yourself. Yeah. So if someone runs in front of you, or your reaction time, you're quick because of the physical fitness, you can easily avoid things. Which,
yes, and that is certainly a skill if I've learned anything from my kindergarten students. We're still working on that.
Reaction time.
Reaction time.
There you go. That could be part of your physical fitness. Balance, I think, is really great. Definitely important. And also, I feel like balance helps you centralize everything, like work that core, work your Like work everything as one, that building block together, because you need to have it all together to balance.
And I think it would definitely help with long-term mobility. So of course we all want to be mobile for as long as we can. So balance was a great way to work on that.
Agility.
Agility makes me think of cardio.
Okay. Because for agility, I think of stretching, strength, like that type of agility. And you think of cardio agility.
To be agile, I guess I'm thinking kind of in a sports context. When you're agile, you can avoid different obstacles very easily. And you're thinking of agility maybe in your dance context.
But both are great. It's really important to be agile and
definitely
helpful. And the last one is power.
Power. Wow, that just makes me think of weights.
Yeah, like that one's a no-brainer. Right? The more you work out, the more powerful you feel, the stronger you are, the more you can lift, the more you can, even the longer you can do things, right? You have the more power. And I definitely feel that from working out.
Oh, definitely. And it's just so many things you actually need strength for in your life. Like think about carrying groceries from the car or being able to just lift boxes or lift at your workplace, just little things like that you wouldn't really think of. But you really need to work on maintaining that if you want to be able to do that as you grow older.
Definitely. So here we go. We're just going to list those 6 components of physical exercise one more time. Balance, coordination, agility, speed, power, and reaction time. So there you go. All the benefits of working out.
There's a thought. Popped up while running. So many of my running pop-ups aren't any special thoughts. It's just savoring the moment, reminding me why I'm so happy I got into running. Something I never expected that I would do. Yesterday was a typical one. I was running on a fall day. The temperature was my favorite temperature to run. The sky was blue and the clouds were puffy. I was doing a 10K run. I've also recently slowed my heart rate down a little bit. I'm focusing more on my heart rate, which is something I kind of got off and I'm trying to get back to. So not surprisingly, I was around the 7K mark and I was feeling great. Just everything was just flowing. Wasn't really paying attention to how I felt. I was listening to a book on my headphones. But the book got to a part where, sometimes with a book, they talk a lot about history or technical stuff. So I decided I should switch it up and throw on some music. So I stopped, threw on some music, took off. And what's the first song that comes on? There's a song I really like by Macklemore, Thrift Shop. It's just really funny. And also I like the music, but it always puts me in a good mood. And I noticed I was just flowing and really enjoying the moment. Looking at the sky, feeling a flow in my body. My heart rate was good. My breath was good. My legs felt good. I'd already done 7K, but I wasn't tired. I noticed the weather and the wind and the sky, and I was almost laughing at some of the sections in the song. It was incredible. So not every running pop-up is some amazing thought. Lots of times it's just being out there and remembering and recognizing why I like running and why it gives me so many of those moments in life. If you're trying to have a concept like I am of life in every breath, how you can really savor the moment. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin. So John and I have an interesting change happening very soon. Very soon. Our youngest son is going to be moving out. So we are going to be empty nesters. I have no idea what's going to happen from here, but I have so many great ideas and hopes and dreams and all that. So thought we could talk about it.
I like the idea of talking about it now because we're not empty nesters yet. So it's us expecting it'll happen and maybe imagining what might happen. And maybe in 6 months we revisit it and find out what actually happened.
Yeah, because we have had that times where the kids go off to university and they go off to school or go travel and come back and go. But I kind of feel like this is it. Like he's leaving and then I don't think we're going to have any coming back. So we can change the rooms around and get furniture that will actually last because they won't kill it and so many things. So for the past 2 weeks, I've actually been prepping, just getting the place ready for him to move into. So now we're starting to talk about what we're going to do with our house.
It reminds me of the story when you said you moved out, and you moved out really young. You were coming
18.
from high school to like a college program in Quebec, which they call CEGEP. You moved out of your room and your mom immediately like took everything away. You couldn't move back in even if you wanted to.
No, like not only did she take everything away, my bedroom was taken over by a different sibling. So it's like your room is gone. Your stuff is gone.
So maybe that's what we have to do, because we are planning for our youngest son's room. We're still going to have it, a bedroom. So I guess in theory, it would be easy to move back into. But somehow we'll have to put like gates up or something, or like spikes or
A lock.
locks.
Put a lock on the door. One of those code locks.
Guests
and we don't
only.
give them the code. That's
right.
what we could do. So right now we do have a guest room that we have. And then we have Alex's room. So we're thinking that we'll turn Alex's room into a guest room. And then what are we going to do with the spare room? I want to get rid of the bed.
Which we could do. I mean, I do think that, like, I can't really imagine any time where we're going to have two couples over or need two beds, but it's not really a big deal to have a bed in a bedroom and still do something else in that bedroom. But I take your point. We'll have to think about it.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Okay, so what I would like to do is make it into like a craft sewing room.
Right.
And we could also put the podcast studio in there.
True.
So that downstairs, if you're doing a podcast, if you're doing something, you'll be upstairs in a shut doored room. We can still, watch TV or do stuff like that downstairs. That would be kind of nice.
So we'd have to get some kind of big table that you could use both for sewing and podcast?
No, I would do two different tables.
I see.
I want my own sewing table. I want to put my sewing machine out. Like right now, if anybody sews, you know how your sewing machine has all the cords and you got to take the lid off and then you got to unwind all the cords and plug it in. And it would be really nice if it was just set up. My cords were plugged in.
All the time.
My sewing machine is ready. And I also want to take over the closet with all my sewing stuff so that I don't have to go into this thing that has my colors in it. I can't find them and they're all tangled and it's just a mess.
It's interesting because for the podcast studio side, right now we're at the Collingwood condo and we're doing this on a miniature desk.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of us have everything set up on this miniature desk that I'm going to guess is about 24 inches by like 18 inches.
Smallest desk I've ever seen.
So we don't really need much room. And plus, I really want to, right now we still have the mic sitting on a tripod. Mm-hmm. And I really want to get those boom arms.
Oh, you remember
So
the name.
you can stand up
Yes.
and be doing it standing up. So again, you don't need a lot of room and maybe even add a third mic. So I like that idea. It would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting. So we'll see. And then also dinners, cooking.
That's one thing I'm really looking forward to because, at the end of the day, you do think about the food people like and our kids tend to like, not so much Elise, she likes the stuff we like, but the other two tend to like kind of basic stuff, like the routine stuff, not basic. I don't know the right word, but we want to try and move more into trying vegetarian things and less
Spicy.
meat and spicy and different countries and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that would be really nice. But also not having to have a set time, like, oh, dinner's at 6 every day. Like just do our thing. Not having to be tied down to, family dinner. It's like, oh, just kind of go with the flow and see what happens. I think that would be really fun. I also think that we just won't have to cook as much.
It's going to be quiet though. It's going to be quieter around the house.
Oh, for sure.
So it'll be hard to get used to that too. Mm-hmm. And do you think we'll end up getting divorced?
I know. I said to John, I don't know what's going to happen. We might end up killing each other.
Although we already spend so much time together. We talk a lot. It's like you hear about some couples, they're so busy with the kids and then all the kids are gone and then they look at each other and like, who are you? Mm-hmm. That's not us.
Well, it was when we had the kids.
When they were very young.
Yeah, we were so
But
busy.
in the last bunch of years, like we get to spend so much time together and do so much together that I don't think that's going to be an issue.
No, and plus we both have our own interests. We do our own things.
Right.
So we're often busy doing that too. We're not like sitting at home just staring
So
at
you'd
each
say
other.
like less than 50-50 on the divorce?
At this point, I feel like we're all in. It's like death is the only thing that's going to separate it. Now, how the death happens is another thing.
Okay, well that sounds like the perfect place to end question mark. Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities.
Their views expressed are their own and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
Happy Halloween, everyone. It is sign-off time. It's Elise here with John and Sheila.
The show dropped on Halloween. Spooky.
Spooky.
Spooky. I know. I'm just hoping to get through the week this week because I am a kindergarten teacher and the kids are so excited for Halloween. So hoping to harness some of that energy and maybe calm the kids down a bit this week.
And do they get like super energized when they eat all that sugar afterwards for the rest of the week?
It's more like a crash. I think they get super energized after trick-or-treating and then they come to school the next day and they are just done.
Right.
Probably from the build up and then the excitement. But in terms of my past week, I had a great week. I got back to the pottery studio and I did some wheel work at the pottery studio, which was so much fun. And I've actually been using these new shoes that I really love at work. I've been experiencing some heel pain from just being on my feet a lot. I'm on my feet a lot at work. I usually get somewhere between like 10 to 12,000 steps a day. And so I purchased some brand new orthopedic shoes and they are a game changer. I should have done it way sooner. So glad I have them and the pain has gone away.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. How about you, Sheila?
Oh, well, we were on holidays last week, so we had a nice, relaxing week, and the weather just got nicer and nicer as the week went on. And Friday, it was so warm. John was out with his shorts on. I couldn't believe it. It was crazy. So we had a wonderful time exploring Collingwood, and then we came home, and it's actually been a little bit of a whirlwind ever since Sunday, I would say. You guys came up on Saturday and we had a nice visit with you guys up in Collingwood. And then we woke up on Sunday and then going to work. And we had to pick up someone at the airport around midnight last night. So that was interesting. So it's just been go, 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 go. That's what's new with me. What about you, John?
We did have a great holiday. I won't get into all the little things we did, but we did explore. That was fun. A lot of hiking and biking and walking and doing stuff outside. And we didn't go out to eat very much. We did mostly our own cooking, and it was fun. Having said that, I got to give myself kind of like a C, maybe a C plus on how I took a vacation because I kept making the mistake. I kept looking at my work emails on my phone, just glancing at them. And it was like, oh, so that would kind of get in my head. And then we had some other issues about our condo, which we try and rent seasonally. And there's some issues there this year. So I was letting that stress me out. So didn't really give myself a chance to actually take a break. So I'm going to try and figure out for the next time what I could do better and set my next vacation up a lot better. And today, all I can really think about is I'm so tuckered out. We're actually doing this on Monday night. So we were away last week and today was the first day back in the office and how many emails. And my goal was to try and get through all my unopened emails. Didn't quite get there. And now it's just so funny how you can just work every Monday and it's fine. But the one after a holiday, man, I'm exhausted at the end of the day. So I will now try and finish putting the podcast together. I'm really grateful to have had a chance to talk to Shayne Corson. That was amazing that somebody like him, so strong, so powerful, but yet experiences issues, can be that face and somebody who's willing to talk about it. That even the strongest people have issues and he's willing to share his experiences. So I'm really grateful for that. It's been a good week. And I got to re-energize and try and get the rest of the week going well.
Well, here's hoping that the weather gets a little warmer for Halloween. I hope everyone enjoyed the podcast. We will talk to you soon. That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.